Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome to our coffee times together. Today, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be doing a tag, but this is a very special tag. So last year, it was the first time that Cait did this fantastic 1 month long readathon called the monster-a-thon. I participated. It was tons of fun, and I knew that this year I was going to participate again. And one really cool thing that happened this year is that she asked me if I wanted to co-host it and be part of one of the teams, and I was like, hell yes, like I'm gonna love this readathon anyways, so it is awesome to be part of it as well. I'm gonna leave down below in the description all the information related to the readathon. You still have time to prepare your TBR pile to join one of the 3 teams. We have the Hunts, the Conspiracies, and the Beasts, so you can choose your own team. Each team has different prompts. They're all a lot of fun, and Cait puts always so much work into this readathon in order to make it super fun and engaging. And there's always like little things that you have to do, like little challenges, and it's just a lot of fun. So join us, okay? And before you click away because you think, oh, I'm not gonna do this readathon, so why am I even watching this video, you might want to stay anyways, because this tag is just made for us to be able to give you options when it comes to the books. So I'm going to be recommending one book for each prompt in order to try to help people that are looking for books to choose. And even if you're not joining us, you can also do the tag. It's gonna help other people to find books to read for the readathon.
It's coffee time!
Before we get to all of the prompts and my book recommendations, if you love horror and you love books, please consider subscribing to the channel and also click on the notification bell so you'll get notified every time that I upload a coffee time video. So this year's monster-a-thon has the subtitle Where Monsters Hide. So ideally, you would like to pick books that include monsters in them, and I think that Cait did such a good job at picking up books that do include some sort of creatures or monsters. Also, that's part of the reason why I'm wearing my shirt, because this is like the OG monster, but since I want to keep it as much horror as possible, I decided to pick up books that are from the horror genre. So maybe if you guys are joining the monster-a-thon and you're somebody that likes to read horror, I hope that you can find some recommendations here. However, if you're not gonna join the monster-a-thon, you're still gonna get horror book recommendations, so it's a win-win. All right, so let's start with the teams and their challenges. We have 3 teams. The first one that I'm gonna be talking about is, of course, my team, the Beasts. And the first challenge is called MAH SWAMP, which is basically to choose a book whose cover you love. So for these, I'm gonna be picking My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This is also a very accessible kind of horror book about an exorcism, because it is YA oriented. And in this book, we have a group of friends that one night decide to go and make kind of like a little party by the lake, and one of them disappears, and when she comes back, she has changed. She starts to act a little bit weird, and they don't know what's happening with her, but she is definitely changing, and so they assume that there's something evil attached to her. Next challenge is Whispering Woods, which is to read a book that is underhyped or that you have not heard so much about. And for that, I'm gonna recommend a book that I just keep pushing to people because I just think it's a lot of fun, and that is Dying to Live by Kim Pfaffenroth. And this is a trilogy, so if you love the first book, you can keep going. And this is all about a zombie apocalypse and basically how the survivors are going to deal with that and how they're going to look into the future. I absolutely loved it. I loved it. This is one of my favorite like zombie books that I don't hear anybody talking about, so maybe you want to check it out. The next challenge is The LAIR of the Babadook, and it's to read a book with LGBT representation and characters, and for that I'm going to be picking The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, because we follow a married couple of gay men that have adopted a kid And I absolutely love that these characters and their sexuality are not used in any way for plot purposes or to make it tropey. It's just telling their story, and they have such a beautiful relationship. I absolutely love them, and the family dynamic and everything that you get to see from these characters. So this is also a great book that it was bizarre at points, but it felt also claustrophobic at other moments. It is this couple that is spending some days in a house in the woods with their kid until some strangers come knocking on their door. And the last challenge for the group of the Beast is Hydra's Hangout, a mythology-based book. And for this, I'm going to be choosing Procession of the Dead by D.B. Shawn. It's the pen name of Darren Shawn, and it has Incan mythology in it, which is something that you don't see so often, so I thought I would mention it here. Plus, this is a trilogy. It's basically the story of this young kid that goes to a city where he kind of takes over the business of his uncle, which has to do a little bit with illegal stuff and gangster stuff. I absolutely loved the Darren Shawn series of Cirque du Freak, and this is another one that he did. It's just a trilogy, this one, but I love that it brings something new. Now let's move to the next team, Team The Hunts, and their first challenge is Under the Bed. Read a book by a Black, Indigenous, or people of color author that you've been sleeping on. And for this, I'm actually going to pick a book that I have not read yet, but I would really want to check out, and that is The Devil in Silver by Victor Lavalle. It is about a man, a big man, that has been committed into a mental facility for a crime that he didn't commit, and while he's there, he starts to get visits from this kind of creature. So like I said, this is one that I have not read, but it is right on the top of my list of books that I really want to pick up because I've heard so many good things about this author, and I really like this premise. I love stories that have to do or are inside of asylums and mental institutions. It's just so creepy, you know, the mind, what we can see, what we think we're seeing, like all of these things are so creepy to me that this is one that I want to check out also myself. Moving on to the next challenge, which is Your Friendly Neighbor's House. Let a friend pick a book for you to read. So I just got in the mail not long ago a super early birthday present from the lovely Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and so I'm gonna be picking that one because it is sci-fi combined with horror, and that is Pitch Dark by Courtney Alameda. And apparently it is about a crew that was in a ship, and they had been sleeping there for centuries, not knowing what was happening out in the outside world until they get back to Earth, I think. I don't know, but it has to do with this crew that has been asleep for centuries in a ship, and then once they wake up, they are confronted with a lot of like monsters and darkness. Next, Secret Crypt. Read a mystery or a book with a mystery element, and for that I'm gonna choose one of my new favorite authors of mystery thrillers, and that is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I absolutely love the twist that this book has. It is a great mystery. You're all the time wondering what's happening. So this is a story in which a girl that needs money gets offered a job, basically apartment sitting. All she has to do is basically live in this luxurious apartment in this awesome building called the Bartholomew, and she's like, why is this so easy? What's the catch? Well girl, the catch is that people disappear in that building, okay? So she doesn't know why people are disappearing, and she starts to investigate. And the last challenge for this team is A Moment of Peace, a comfort read. And for these, I basically noted down any Stephen King book, okay? So for me, it would be Pet Sematary, Joyland, Carrie, like probably something that it's not too long, maybe The Mist. I really like to revisit Joyland lately because Joyland is a book that it's fast-paced. It has to do with like a fun park, and I absolutely love that book. It was just perfect. Now let's move to the team The Conspiracies. So their first challenge is Area 51. Read a book involving mutants or aliens, and for this I'm picking Video Night by Adam Cesare because this is basically a group of nerds that like video games that in the 80s need to fight against monsters and aliens, and I was like, yes. So this is such a fun book. If you love the 80s and you love horror and you haven't read it yet, definitely pick it up. The next challenge is Rearview Mirror, indie book or a book published more than 5 years ago. So actually I discovered that Kill Creek by Scott Thomas was published by an indie publisher. So I can mention this one because I freaking loved it, and I think it is amazing also for the monster-a-thon, and it has so many different types of horror genre just combined into one book. And if you are somebody that really enjoys horror movies or books, you are going to love this book because it was made for horror fans. You follow a group of 4 different horror book authors that are invited to spend the day at a haunted house, supposedly haunted house, to give some interviews while they're there. And when they leave the house, they think that everything is fine until they realize that there is something hunting them. The next challenge is the Upside Down, read a retelling. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit on this one. Because I really wanted to mention this book. This is a compilation of short horror stories, and it's called Strange Girls, Women in Horror Anthology by Arthur Knox. And it is not a retelling, but it is telling a lot of different tropes and horror stories, but from a woman's perspective. It is all stories written by women where the main characters are women. So it is kind of a retelling in the way that it's taking your typical tropes and horror stories and turning them into stories about women. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the stories, and I think horror short stories, sometimes it's something really cool to do in a month-long readathon, because you can read a couple of stories, you know, every week. So if you're interested in it, it is definitely a great read. And the last challenge is The Bunker, read a book with disability or deaf representation. And for these, I would like to mention The Silence by Tim LeBon. So maybe you know about it because there is a Netflix movie, but there's also a book, and I like this book because it has kind of like the same concept as A Quiet Place. We live in a world where one day suddenly there is some sort of like apocalypse, something goes down, and there are some creatures that are starting to kill the humans. So the family that we are following, the daughter has been deaf all her life, and while they're escaping this kind of end of the world scenario, they realize that if they are silent, then the creatures leave them alone. And this girl has a lot of experience because she's deaf, she's used to silence, and it is about, you know, how they're trying to survive in this kind of new world order. And I really enjoyed both the book and the movie. Alright, you guys, so these were all my book recommendations. You can pick any of these if you are going to be participating in the monster-a-thon, but if you're not, I hope that you still enjoyed the horror book recommendation video, because that's mostly what it is. And I'm gonna leave, like I said, below all the information about the monster-a-thon, also Cait's video on her own recommendations, so that you get more ideas in case you want to join us. It is a complete month, so it doesn't matter if you read a lot or if you read a little. It's, you know, it would be great if you could participate and if you could join us. You can pick your team. You have the beasts, you have the conspiracies, and you have the hunts. And you know, the main goal here is to terrorize villagers, and basically we will be accumulating the points of each team to see which team has terrorized more villagers at the end of the month. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Please consider giving the video a big thumbs up to support the channel, make it more visible to other people in YouTube. And if you want to follow me in the social media, as always, the links are down below. And I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!